Hey guys, Jared James here, and another installment of these series of webinars that I'm doing for you. Thank you to the South Carolina Association of Realtors, South Carolina Realtors, for having me do this for you guys. Today, really psyched about the topic that we get to talk about because it's actually a topic that I wrote a book about called Get Out of Your Way. Okay, so this is one again where you're going to want to take a lot of notes. Make sure you learn a lot from it because it's really everything else that I teach, all of the strategies and the tactics and all this stuff, business creation, whatever, it means nothing if you don't get this down, okay? So there'll be a lot of notes. If you want the slides or you want the notes from it, send an email to yes, at jaredjamestoday.com, yes@jaredjamestoday.com. And as always, if you want to connect, or you want to send me a question or DM me on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or anything like that, just go to connectwithjared.com, connectwithjared.com. But today I'm going to talk to you specifically about this idea of get out of your way. You know, I wrote a book about this, and it was based, you know, the basic premise of it was the idea that most people's issue was not that they didn't know what to do, it's that they don't do it. You know, I mean, that's with most people, right? Like if I could see you right now and I were to say, hey, raise your hand if you ever had a disconnect between what you intended to do and what you actually did, I would have a lot of people raising their hand. Why? Because it's human nature. And there are some things that are just human nature. We can blame them on human nature. But if you're somebody who's in real estate, like you want to do more. Like nobody gets into real estate because they want to be average, right? And so we have to break the mold of that normal, of that, you know, human nature type of mentality to ultimately go to the next place, the next level within your business, within your life, you know, whatever it happens to be, okay? And so as I'm saying this to you guys, please understand, like I come from a situation with, you know, two brothers, a mother, whatever, single parent household, you know, nobody graduated high school, let alone college, with exception of myself. And I ultimately graduated high school early, went on and got a full ride to college and, you know, obviously do the things that I do now because I so believe in this. We are the common denominator in every single situation we're in. We're the common denominator. And so we have to learn how to leverage this idea of, like I said a second ago, getting out of your own way, okay? So the first thing we want to do when it comes to this idea of getting out of your own way is the idea that first understand that you're an entrepreneur and you're not normal, and that's okay, right? Entrepreneurs as a whole are not normal people. Like they're the people who don't go work at a job for a 3% increase every year with guaranteed benefits and everything else. They're the ones that go and do commission only and say, I can make it on my own or not, but it's going to be because of me. And there's something a little off about that, but there's something good about that as well. So first, you want to just acknowledge and be okay with the fact that you're not completely normal. And we live in a world where that is frowned upon. We live in a world where everything is 9 to 5, you know, high school, college, you know, they show you by the book how you're supposed to do everything. If you're acting abnormal or you're a little bit different, they either want to drug you or, you know, teach you how to be normal. And yet when you look at it, everything in our society, every person that you've ever idolized or you had up on your wall or was amazing or you read books about or whatever was not normal on any level. And I'm sure people tried to normalize them, but they weren't normal, okay? And so the first thing we have to do is understand that, but we also have to understand who we are as a person and what our potential is and where our gifts and our talents lie. You know, we now work in an industry which is fantastic, that there are so many different lanes. Like it used to just be you're a realtor and that's it. You're a real estate person, that's it. And now you have people specializing so much more. You have buyer's agents and listings agents and marketing people and ISAs and team leaders and all of these various things, which I'm glad it's that way because these are all different personality types. And you need to know who you are and how you function and what makes you tick and where you're going to flourish the most. Because one of my favorite quotes, it's actually my son's favorite quote too, is an Einstein quote where he said, if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it will go its whole life thinking it's stupid. Because fish don't climb trees, right? But it'd be amazing in the water, but you're asking it to do something it's not great at. And so the first thing we have to do is we have to understand our own potential and understand our own gifts and make sure that we're in the right lane, right, to succeed. Because everybody has a completely different level of potential. And to not understand that, you set yourself up to fail, okay? You know, I always use the example, Usain Bolt, who's the fastest man in the world, like he was naturally faster than everybody the moment he stepped on the track. Like, whether he practiced or not, he was naturally faster. Now, the more he practiced, the better he got. But you need to understand that in that area, literally in that lane, that was where his gift was. And so we want to find how to do that with ourselves. We want to be very honest with ourselves too about what we're great at, what we strive to be, what we're amazing at, right? And so I'm a big believer that we greatly overestimate on a regular basis what we can do with someone else's talent, and we underestimate what we can do with our own, okay? We greatly overestimate what we can do with someone else's talent, and we underestimate what we can do with our own. What does that mean? We have so much focus on other people and other things, and if I ran that company, I'd do this, and if I put on this event, I'd do that, and if I were him or if I were, well, you're not him or her. You gotta get out of your way here, because the more you're focused on all of these things that are other people's gifts, other people's callings, other people's things, you're ultimately not working on your own, okay? So we greatly overestimate what we can do with someone else's talent, and we underestimate what we can do with our own. I am a big believer that you can tell how unhappy or unsuccessful someone is by how much they criticize other people who actually do stuff, okay? You can tell how unhappy, unfulfilled, by how much they criticize people who actually do stuff, okay? And so we first need to find our lane, be real with ourselves about our level of potential and where that lies, and then we need to run our own race without ever being happy or being satisfied with where we are. We're happy with how far we've come, but we know how much further we have to go. One of my favorite quotes was a Billy Graham quote. He said, God loves you just the way you are, but too much to let you stay there. I think that's such a great quote. God loves you just the way you are, but too much to let you stay there. And so, you know, we're ultimately happy with how far we've come and whatever, but we're not satisfied. We know that there's more. We know that we have more ability. We know, I mean, if I were to see you right now, I'd say how many of you would say that at this point in your life, you've fallen short on any level of potential that you have? You know, like really think about that for a second. Like, that you could be doing more, but you're just not doing the things you need to be doing every day. You're getting in your own head. You're thinking about things that don't, you know, that aren't productive. You're getting involved in gossip, which has no kind of growth pattern, you know, potential in your life at all. You know, we do these kinds of things. So sometimes we have to check ourselves and say, wait a second, this isn't good for me. This isn't good for business. This isn't good for family. This isn't good for my relationships. This isn't good for my psyche. This isn't good for any of that stuff, right? We got to check ourselves. We also need to check our ambition. I don't think that as a whole, we are ambitious enough. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of times we check our ambition against what other people think. We check our ambition about what other people will say. And, you know, don't have ambition to do this or that or go that high or that far, because then so-and-so is going to go, well, who do they think they are? Who do they, what, you know, who cares? Our ambition is not, how do you check your ambition? I'll tell you right now. If you were, and I want you to do this afterwards, if you were to pull up in your area in the last 12 months, in the area you serve, the number of transactions that happened in your area in the last 12 months, I then want you to minus the number of transactions that you did in that area. That number is your ambition. Because I want you to ask yourself, why did that many transactions happen that I had absolutely nothing to do with? Why did that happen? Like, why? You got to start asking yourself those kinds of questions. The truth is, it's because in many cases, we haven't gotten out of our own way and we're not following through with the areas in our life that we need to be consistent with. We're just kind of winging it on a day-to-day basis, okay? And so when you look at it from a get out of your way perspective, they did a study of the top 100 fastest growing, most successful salespeople in the world, and they wanted to know the number one reason for their success. You want number one was? Wasn't systems, wasn't management, wasn't any of those things. It was something called ability to control, ability to manage your own state of mind. That was it. Ability to manage, ability to control your own state of mind. The emotional output, the emotional feeling you come from every day, your outlook on life, which is determined all throughout the day, every day. It's the number one reason for the top 100 salespeople in the world. And for a lot of you listening to me right now, you're allowing things like the weather to determine that. How your emotional state is, what your outlook is. You're allowing people around you to determine that. And I'm going to tell you there's a few things that if you want to control your own state of mind, that control that, okay? If you want to be highly productive and get out of your own head, number one, it's not things like choosing to be happy. That is a farce. There's no such thing as choosing to be happy, okay? Happiness is an emotion that's controlled by external factors that in many cases you have absolutely no control over. We don't choose to be happy. Okay, when I'm trying to fly home from an event to get home to my kids because I want to go to my kid's game that I promised him I'd be at and it gets canceled, not happy. I'm not going to act like I am. My body knows that I'm not happy. Okay, and so we don't choose to be happy. We do, though, you've heard many times, choose to be grateful. But I'm not talking about being grateful in the way that everybody thinks of it, like where like it's just expected. Like if I hear one more person when I say, what are you grateful for? They go, my kids, my this, like I'm going to throw up in my mouth. Like, duh, we know you're grateful for them. But the true power of gratitude only manifests itself in your life when you learn to be grateful for things that don't make sense to other people. Like, for example, you shouldn't just be grateful because you hit your goals last year. Like whoever, you're watching and you set your goals and you hit them. I'm grateful. Gratitude at its full extent doesn't come from being grateful for hitting your goals. Gratitude comes from the perspective of understanding of just how freaking lucky you are to even work in a career that you chose to be in where you can choose your goals to begin with. Like whether you hit your goals or not, the fact that you get to choose what they are and then fail or succeed, you've already won. Like it's over, game over, you already won. That's where gratitude comes from. Understanding just how lucky you are to live in a country, work in a career that literally you decide what you do, what you don't do, and you have the ability to fail. Like when you get down because a transaction fell apart, you need to stop and think to yourself, oh wait, I work in a career where a transaction fell apart, which means that if it was able to fall apart, I also have the ability to create it all over again. That's amazing. While there are people living all over the world hating their lives, working in factories since they're 7 years old, have no hope, no anything, gratitude. Like that is ultimate gratitude, okay? State of mind is controlled by your ability to control that gratitude. State of mind is controlled, by the little, how you start your day. Like, what do you do every morning? Like, what do you listen to? What music do you listen to? Like when you want to get in a great state of mind, when you're trying to get pumped up, going to a list, do you listen to Celine Dion's All by Myself? No, God, no. So it's controlled by the music that we listen to. It's controlled by who we surround ourselves with. Like if you're surrounded by blood-sucking, energy-sucking vampires on a regular basis, don't be surprised when your state of mind is not fantastic. Like you got to be surrounded by people who choose to see the better sides of things, that choose to change the meaning in situations, changing the meaning, by the way, is a huge part of getting out of your way and controlling your state of mind. Like we had a lady once, I used to tell this story. She sent me an email. She said, I just joined your coaching. I'm really excited, but I have to be really honest with you. I'm in a situation where my husband lost his job. My kids don't know it. We're about to lose our house and like nobody knows, whatever. And I really need to create transactions. But the problem is every transaction I've had so far has been so difficult that every time I get near to a transaction or working with someone, something in me backs off because I don't want to deal with another difficult transaction. So she needs transactions, but the thing she's pushing away is transactions. So this was a long time ago and I said, hey, if you have a moment, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to whatever. And so I get on the phone with her and I start talking to her and I taught her about this great thing called changing the meaning. I didn't call it that, but I just said to her, let me just ask you a couple questions. And I started asking her some questions about the, I said, what's the number one way to create transactions? She said referrals. I said, awesome. And I said, isn't it true that in a regular transaction, like anybody, if it goes perfect, could handle it? I mean, if nothing goes wrong, anyone can handle it. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, isn't it true that when you're in a transaction that goes difficult, you actually have a better chance at getting referred to people, the number one way of gaining business, because they saw just how lucky they were to work with you during a difficult transaction? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, isn't it true during this time you need more transactions than ever because your husband just lost his job? I'm like, yeah. She's like, yeah. I said, well, then isn't it true you should literally be praying for more difficult transactions right now because that's going to lead to more referrals because people are going to see they were lucky to have you during this difficult process? And she's like, yeah, I guess that does make sense. I didn't lie to her. I simply changed the meaning. of what a difficult transaction meant to her. Okay. So one of the number one ways that we create this state of mind and getting out of our own way is by simply going and changing the meaning of the situations that you're going through. Okay. It's a powerful concept. It's one of the greatest principles that I've learned in my life that'll help you for business, will help you for so many different things. Okay. And the last way, quite frankly, guys, that we get out of our way is that we actually align our actions with what we say that we want. Like if you're telling me that you want a successful real estate business, but you aren't mastering the areas that lead to a successful real estate business, what are we going to do? Right? Like there are some key areas. Number one, systems. Do you have systems in place? Have you taken time to actually create follow-up systems and business systems and knowing what your CPC is and knowing your CPL is and knowing what, do you even know what those are? Cost per conversion, cost per lead, cost per close, cost. Do you know these numbers? There's a reason why, guys, over 80% of all small businesses fail in the first 5 years, and yet 75% of all franchises succeed in that same time frame. Because they know their systems, period. Okay. Do you have your social down, right? Social is important, just like email, your email list is, because it allows you to be direct to consumer. So if you finally gotten over the hump and understood that, yes, I know social is big, I know everybody's there, but I'm actually doing something to be vibrant and to be active on there and to be, or am I just waiting until the time comes to do it? Social matters, right? Your internet strategy. Do you know your internet strategy within your business? Like, do you know your PPC, your pay per click strategy? Do you know your blog strategy? Do you know your Facebook, Instagram ad strategy? Do you know your video and content strategy? Do you know your podcast strategy? Do you know your retargeting strategy? You can't say that you want to be a very successful real estate person or business person in general and have a misalignment between what it is you're saying you want and what it is that you actually do every day. Okay, these areas, you've got to be able to check the box in these areas. Your personal and referral strategy. Do you have a strategy for follow-up? Do you create expectation with every client and past client of what your next touch is going to be with them and then follow through with it? Do you ask for the business when you talk to them? Do you have that in line? Your structure and infrastructure. You know, do you know what your organizational model is? Is it you? Is it 2 people, 3 people? What are you moving towards? Do you know what those things mean? Do you know, like the old lie, guys, that, you know, we all get the same number of hours? That's not true. We all have 24 hours in a day, but if I have 20 people working for me, I have 480 hours in a day. You still have 24, okay? So you know what that looks like. Do you have your financial strategy in place? Like when I say get out of your way, you can't say that you want something and then be a complete financial disaster, which never allows you to come from a position of strength. And most financial issues never come from what you spend anyway. From what you make anyway, they come from what you spend, right? So it's a matter of getting spending under control on frivolous things that don't grow, okay? But also investing in things that do make you grow, like investing in yourself, getting into coaching, getting into training, getting a good CRM, getting a good website, getting PPC, like investing in your business. Having a ton of money in the bank in today's world is your grandparents' economy. Sitting money doesn't make money, okay? And so do you have your finances in order? Do you pay yourself first so that you have profit? Do you have this stuff in order? You got to get out of your way. And the last one is mental. State of mind. We talked about that, right? You guys have probably heard the example, a snake grows to the size of the cage that you put it in. Completely true. So who are you surrounded by? What size is the cage that you're ultimately in? Or if you open that puppy up and realize there's a whole world out there. You know, you're at the mercy for the mentality that was ingrained in you since you were a little kid, but you're responsible for the mentality that you develop and pass on to others moving forward, okay? So you're at the mercy of the mentality ingrained to you by your parents, by small-minded people, by whoever it was. You're responsible for the mentality that you develop moving forward and that you now pass on to others. Like, I don't know about you, but I take that really serious. You know, I really believe that we have to determine the standard that is okay for our life and then build patterns around it, okay? Which means if you're setting an alarm and hitting snooze and you have a standard that just enough is okay, then that's fine, whatever. I have a different standard. Like, I have a standard that I want to change people's lives and I want to be a part of that. I'm an active entrepreneur. And so I build one of the largest coaching and training companies in North America. And then I look at what's needed amongst the real estate community. And I say, I'm going to build a marketing company. I'm going to build my own CRM. I'm I'm going to build my own, like, different standards, you know, and I'm up early, get in, get it done. I'm driven. I'm, you know, whatever. I've built patterns. I've built systems around that to make sure that I'm actually living what it is that I say that I absolutely want. And this is big for all of you guys, okay? It's big with how you start your day. It's big to making sure that your actions align with what it is that you say that you want, or ultimately we'll blame everyone else around us. But in the end, the only one to blame is looking in the mirror. You got to get out of your own way, but you've got to set up a system and set up a lifestyle around yourself that ultimately supports that, okay? I really hope you guys do this. If this was helpful for you guys, go to connectwithjared.com. Send me a DM, follow on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat and all these places. Send me a DM. Let me know that this was helpful for you. I love to hear that, guys. It literally makes my day when I hear that all throughout the day from so many of you. But even more important than saying it made a difference for you now, is it making a difference in a month, 2 months, 3 months, because you've built patterns around yourself that ultimately support you, okay? So guys, if you want the training, the slides that go with and stuff, just send an email to yes@jaredjamestoday.com. Love doing this with you guys. Thanks for watching this series of trainings that we're doing for you. Hope to see some of you in person soon.